Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Alrighty, now let's get to the second part of lesson 5.2.6. This homework problems 88 through 92. The first problem involves probability with some compound events happening here. Start off, we got there are 5 containers of yogurt in the refrigerator. 3 of them are raspberry, 1 is vanilla, and 1 is peach. And then there are 2 types of apples. You got 2 green apples and 3 red apples for a total of 5 apples. So if we're going to find the simple probability, stop it. Let's go here. Okay, the simple probability of getting a raspberry, that would be 3 out of the 5 yogurts are raspberry, so 60% of getting a raspberry if you just reach in randomly and grab one of the yogurts. Same thing applies for the probability of getting a red apple. There are 3 red apples in there, and there's a total of 5 total apples. So 3 out of the 5, 60% chance of grabbing a red apple. So now is where we get into the compound events. If you want to find what is the probability of getting a raspberry yogurt and also grabbing out a red apple, you have to take those probabilities, 3/5, and then multiply them together, because you do have a 3/5 probability of getting a raspberry, but you could grab a green apple, which would ruin everything, right? Think of this as you're playing a game or a competition. In order to win, you've got to get both the raspberry yogurt and the red apple on the very next time. So the probability becomes even more challenging. So 3/5 times 3/5 is 9 out of 25, which is a 36% chance. You went from having a 60% chance of just getting a red raspberry yogurt, and a 60% chance of getting a red apple, to a 36% chance of getting both of them. So when you end up having compound probabilities where you have to do this and that, it lowers the probability. And in order for that to lower, you'd have to multiply them together. Now let's think about the logic here of just guessing randomly that, well, I know we're either supposed to multiply or we're supposed to add, but I can't remember which one. Well, there's no way your probability is going to be greater than 1. The highest probability can be 100%. So if you added 3/5 plus 3/5, you get 6/5, which is more than 1. So there's no way that this situation you could have a mathematical situation where you would add those 2 probabilities together for this particular situation. So really, if you use logic, the only operation available is to multiply those 2 fractions. All right, what do we have here? A bag contains 3 red, 5 yellow, and 7 purple marbles. That's a total of 15 total marbles. Find the probability of drawing a purple marble followed by a red marble. Okay, so the purple is 7 out of 15. And the red would be 3 out of 15. So remember, you're going for purple and a red immediately after it, which means you're going to multiply those 2 together. So when you multiply straight across, you get 21 out of 225. If you simplify this ratio to be 1 out of 5, then you would get 7 out of 75. And if you chose to write this as a percent, you could just take 21 and divide it by 225, and that gives you the decimal number 0.093. So remember, changing a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, so there's 9.3 repeated percent chance of first getting a purple, then getting a red right after that. All right, what do we have going on here? Graph paper. All right, so use graph paper to complete these parts. Draw an XY coordinate graph and label each axis. So you got your Y-axis is the vertical axis, and the X-axis is the horizontal axis. And of course, we always want to make sure that we label the number lines so we know what we're counting by. So we've scaled it, and we're counting by ones. Now let's plot these points. You got 2, 3, -2, 3, -2, -3, and 2, -3. And we're going to connect those points, and that is going to form our black triangle, right? There's the negative 2, 3. There's the 2, 3. There's the 2, negative 3, and the negative 2, negative 3. So with that, the black rectangle, which you can't quite see it because the red one's covering it up a little bit, is that's the original rectangle that's being formed here. Then it says, describe the shape. So that's a rectangle. What is the area? Well, the black one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 in this direction and 4 in this direction. So 6 by 4 is 24 square units. And the perimeter is 10 and 10 makes 20. Okay. Then it says change only 2 points so that the shape has an area of 32 square units. So in order to have a shape that has an area of 32 square units, it's either going to have to be 2 by 16, 1 by 32, or 4 by 8. And I don't see any way that we can just change 2 points and have this one or this one. But since it's already 4 units in this direction, all we have to do is stretch this guy out 2 units. So that's what I did. We could have gone in this direction, or technically you could have gone in this direction and plotted those guys down there. Jerry bought some pears at the store. He paid $4.59 for 5.4 pounds. So I'm going to write that as a rate. $4.59 for 5.4 pounds. So if we want to find the unit rate or the unit price, we need to figure out how much that is for 1 pound. So how do we do this? Well, to find the unit rate, you do division. And go ahead and use your calculator. $4.59 divided by 5.4 will tell us the price per pound. So $4.59 divided by 5.4 ends up being a terminating decimal. How nice is that? We didn't have to round it off. That ends up being 0.85 per pound, which is what we've got written there. And the last problem involving order of operations. So remember, PEMDAS is the traditional method for simplifying all numerical expressions, where you start with parentheses, solve what's inside the parentheses first, then move on to exponents, then move on to multiplication, division, and then finish up with addition, subtraction. Now, if you recall, CPM loves breaking these guys into individual terms. So the terms are the parts that are being added together or subtracted. So this multiplication part represents one term, this multiplication represents another term, and then this 18 is a third term. So I know that 7 times 8 is 56. This is going to end up being 4 times 4, since 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. And so 56 minus 16 is 40, and 40 plus 18 is 58. So you can either do it by breaking it up into its individual terms and then using the order of operations to simplify each of the smaller terms, or you can just take an entire process like this, 6 squared minus parentheses 8 times 3, and parentheses plus 2 squared times 7 minus 3. You could just go through it and do the entire expression using the order of operations. But honestly, this is a little bit easier. You can do some of the work mentally, whereas I don't want to do any of that mentally. Got to show the work, or else you're going to make a mistake. So start with the exponent. No, we start with parentheses, don't we? So I'm going to leave that 6 squared there, but I'm going to change that to a 24. I'm going to change that to a 4, and then times 7 times 3. Now we're going to do the exponent, so that becomes a 36 minus 24 plus 4 times, can I just go ahead and call that 21 right now? Because that's got to be the next step, is the multiplication. So 4 times 21, which is indeed 84. So we have to take 36 minus 24, which is 12, and then add that to the 84, so we get 96 for our final answer. Okay, I guess I can do the last two, since this is the last problem of the homework, right? Yeah, I'll just go ahead and do all of them. Here, I have to do the exponent. No, I have to do this first. So we're going to take 14 over 2, and then 3 times 2 plus, I'm going to just do that as 49. So this can be 7 minus 6 plus 49. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 plus 49 is 50. And this one, I'm going to do the CPM method again. There's one term. There's a second term, and there's the third term. So this term doesn't have anything to simplify. This one is going to be 3 times 7 minus 2, so that's 3 times 5, which is 15, and then that's going to be 8. So now I'm going to do some KFC and change that to -9 plus a -15 plus a +8. And now I'm going to choose to add these guys together first because that's going to give me -1, and -1 plus -15 is -16. So our final answer is -16. All right, I think that ends our homework for the first part of Chapter 5. So we are now going to get into a mode where we start preparing for our Chapter 5 test number 1. So we're probably going to move on to a study guide pretty soon. All right, take care. Bye.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood.